All right, so we today are taking notes on our Unit 1A notes packet. And you guys, your paper, your cover page should say Unit 1A, and we are looking at Topic 1, which is order of operations. So order of operations, this word order is really important. Just literally tells us, I'm going to read this definition. It tells us the rules mathematicians follow to determine which procedures to perform first when evaluating mathematical expressions. So it's just a way to help us remember what we do first, what we do second, what we do third, etc. So we have this way to remember it, and it's this word right here that we kind of made up. It's called GEMDAS. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but we're going to say GEMDAS, G-E-M-D-A-S. And that tells us in which order that we will perform the math operations. So this is the order it's going to be: G first, E second, M or D third, and A or S first. And now we'll talk about what those letters mean. So G, what G means is any sort of grouping symbol. So a grouping symbol, for example, a really common one, I'm going to draw it up here, could be parentheses. That's a really common grouping symbol. Another really common grouping symbol could be absolute value bars. We'll talk about those a little bit later. Another one that you might see could be a square root symbol, and that's a grouping symbol because we could put something inside of it. We could put something inside of those absolute value bars or inside of those parentheses. All right, so if you see grouping symbols, you do those first. Then we move on to E, and what E stands for is E stands for exponents. So if we have any exponents, we'll evaluate those next. All right, next I'm going to do M and D. M and D are really common. M stands for multiplication, and the D, you probably can guess it, stands for division. So M and D just means we do multiplication and division. And it doesn't matter what order we do, whatever one comes first. Now I'm going to write here from left to right. And then for AS, what that stands for is lastly, we do addition and subtraction. Whatever comes first from left to right. So this might be a little bit confusing right now, but we're going to do a couple examples to help you understand the meaning and the importance of GEMDAS. Alright, so now we have a couple examples that we're going to simplify. So again, I'm going to write up here GEMDAS, what we just discussed, and I'm going to reference this often as we go through these examples. So we're just going to go right into the first example and follow the order of operations. So the first thing we're looking at this example right here, it says 2 minus 5 times 7 plus 7. So we can't just go right ahead and dive in and do 2 minus 5 because we're mathematicians and we're going to follow the order of operations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first look for G. Do I have any grouping symbols? And as you can see, there are no grouping symbols in this problem, so no G. Then I go to E, which stands for exponent. An exponent is a small number, smaller than these, that's raised up higher than those. An example of an exponent, if you pop down here, this little tiny 2 is an exponent. So there are no exponents in this problem. So then we go to the next one, which is M or D, multiplication or division, whatever comes first. And in this problem, I see a multiplication symbol, this dot, which means these two numbers that are being multiplied, -5 and 7, I'm going to do those first. So how I'm going to write this problem is I'm going to keep the 2 exactly the same. It stays out front. And now I'm going to do this multiplication. -5 times 7 is -35. I'm going to write it there. And then lastly, I'll bring down this last number, which is a +7 at the end. So now I'm going to continue this problem. I've done my M, I've done my D, there is no D, so now we're moving on to the last, which is A or S, whatever comes first, addition or subtraction. So I'm just going to go right down the line from left to right, and I see that subtraction comes first. So I'm going to do 2 minus 35, and 2 minus 35 is negative 33. And then I'll bring down this plus 7. And so lastly, we only have one operation left, addition, so we are going to do negative 33 plus 7, and that gives us negative 26. So that is our answer when we follow the order of operations, when we simplify that problem. All right, let's move right on to the next one. So in this next one to the right, right here, we're going to start over with GEMDAS. We're going to look for G, which is grouping symbols. And do you all see that there is a grouping symbol here, absolute value bars, and they hold inside of it that problem 2 minus 5. So we're going to evaluate that grouping symbol. So I'm going to keep the 4 here. I'm going to keep my absolute value bar, and I'm going to actually evaluate 2 minus 5. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. And then add 7 at the end. Alright, so I'm still working within this grouping symbol. I have negative 3 inside the absolute value bars. So negative 3, I have to take the absolute value of it, and the absolute value of negative 3 is positive 3. So to get rid of those absolute value bars, I have to change this negative 3 to a positive 3. And it's right next to this 4, which means that they are multiplied. So that's why I put parentheses there to multiply them. And then plus 7 at the end. Alright, so now we're going to look through our problem again. We've done grouping symbols. There are no exponents. So now we'll look for multiplication or division. And I see multiplication right here. So I'm going to do 4 times 3. That gives me, I'm going to put a little arrow to continue my work. That gives me 12 plus 7. And then I know that 12 plus 7 is 19. So that is my final answer. Okay, let's move on to the next example. So again, let's go through our list. G first. And I see G right here. I see a grouping symbol. There's parentheses, so I'm going to evaluate what's inside the grouping symbol first. And I'm going to actually do it a little bit different this time. I'm just going to write the parentheses first and do 7 minus 6. And I know that 7 minus 6 is 1. So that's what's inside the grouping symbol. Now I'm going to write everything else around it. I have negative 3 plus that, and then this dot, which means multiplication, and a 2. Alright, so now I'm going to do my groupings, or I'm going to go through GEMDAS again. E is next for exponents. There are no exponents. Then I do M or D for multiplication or division, and I have multiplication and division right there. So now I'm going to do negative 3 plus whatever 1 times 2 is. I don't know why that turned yellow there. It's 1 times 2. And 1 times 2 is just 2. So now I have negative 3 plus 2. And negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So that's my answer. Alright, let's go to the next one. So again, we're going to start with G, and G stands for grouping symbols, and there's a grouping symbol. This is the one that we talked about. 29 minus 4 is underneath that square root symbol. So I'm going to actually rewrite that square root symbol right underneath it, and I'm going to figure out what 29 minus 4 is. 29 minus 4 is 25. In front of it, I'm going to keep the 2, and then after I'm going to do plus 1. Now, when something is right next to each other, like it is here, that just means multiplication. So I'm going to keep the 2 here, and I know these are just multiplied, and I'm going to ask myself, what is the square root of 25? That really means what number multiplied by itself gives you 25. And the answer to that, I'm going to put it over here, the square root of 25 is 5. That's just a little thought bubble. So I'm going to change that square root of 25 to 5, and then do plus 1. So now I'm going to continue with my order of operations. Multiplication or division comes next, and I have multiplication right here, 2 times 5. So 2 times 5 is really just 10, plus 1, which is 11. Alright, let's move down. We only have a couple left. So, last one. I have a lot of stuff going on here. So, first, I have grouping symbols, 4 minus 6. So I'm going to rewrite this problem. I'm going to put my 3. 4 minus 6 is negative 2. I have a little exponent of 2 right there, and then plus 5 at the end. Alright, so now is a good example of an exponent. We haven't got to one of these yet. That means I have to do this exponent first. Ignore the 3. I have to deal with what is negative 2 squared. And I'm going to do another little thought bubble over here. Negative 2 squared just means negative 2 times negative 2. And that is positive 4. So I'm going to change this underneath here to 3 stays the same. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. And then plus 5. 3 times 4, now I'm doing multiplication, that's 12 plus 5. So my final answer is 17. Alright, and then lastly, we have 2 different grouping symbols here. I have one on the left, that's yellow. I have one on the right, that's blue. So it doesn't matter which one we do. I'm going to do the one on the left first. 7 minus 2 is 5. My second grouping symbol is 3 minus 8. That is negative 5. So now I have 2 grouping symbols next to each other with the number 5 and negative 5. Right next to each other just means multiplication. So really this is just 5 times negative 5, and that's negative 25. Alright, so the last thing that you have in your note, practice examples. So I want you to, on your own, see if you can try these practice examples. Remember, you're looking for grouping symbols, and then exponents, and then multiplication and division, and then addition and subtraction. So do these ones on your own. Good luck.